Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in once again. We have good audiences and good crowds for these AMAs, and very much appreciated. So thank you for spending some time on listening to my updates. This time we've also received really a lot of questions, and that's much appreciated. It will take time to answer them all. I'll have to do it relatively fast, but we may overrun a little bit the normal hour. We try to keep this to. If you can't stand watching me for that long, remember that you don't necessarily have to watch it all live. You can go to our YouTube channel or our website to see the rest of the program at a time when it suits you. But it is great to have all these questions. I would suggest that there's one or two people that are submitting quite a lot of questions, and I would appreciate if you would discipline yourself to maybe 2-3 questions, the most important ones you have to make room for everyone, and also to make sure that we really think about what we're asking, so we can focus on the most important things. But we'll get cracking with the questions, and we'll try to see if we can get through them all. So great to see the engagement, great to see the interest. Let's get cracking with the first question for today. How many CCD does Concordium own? How much in fiat? And what is the average monthly expense rate of Concordium in fiat? Well, Concordium owns approximately 4.4 billion CCDs, and I can also tell you that the average monthly expense rate is round about 600,000-700,000 euros at the moment, something in that region. In general, we are well financially supported well into 2025, so we're at a stable place. We obviously continuously looking at what opportunities there are for getting more people engaged and getting more people involved. But for now, we are well funded deep into 2025. Next question, please. The new decentralization strategy is commendable. However, the recent workforce reductions have raised several unsolved questions. When can network stakeholders anticipate gaining access to insights regarding Concordion's financials? Well, I think I appreciate that you agree with the new strategy. I think it has generally been well received both by our standard community and various crypto natives and industry leaders we talk to. They think it's the right thing to do. And of course, when you do that, decentralize, the need for centralized functions is reduced. So everybody has a very strong focus on how do we support people around us as well as possible, be it developers, use cases, the communities, etc. So I think there's a decent balance between internal and external resource. As I said, I just adhere to our financials, so I believe I answered that question. Next question, please. There have been several discussions about publishing an official transparency report. Can we agree on a deadline by which this report will be delivered? Yes, as you know, we also did one about a year ago. I know that we have postponed this one a little bit because we wanted to also reflect the new strategy, which I think is natural for the transparency report. I can now give you a deadline. I actually received last night the sort of final draft for my comments if there was something I wanted to input or add. And I have now a firm date, March the 1st, for this transparency report. So no more waiting, no more postponing it. March the 1st, we'll publish it. Next question, please. We're seeing a significant increase in the number of transactions on the chain. Can you shed some light on what's happening? Yes, that's very pleasing, both because of the transactions, because it also proves that the blockchain is handling this fine. There's absolutely no complications with an increasing number of transactions. These transactions are centered around predominantly a few use cases. The timestamper that's been there for a long time, where you can sort of register documents, the SCRX GDPR initiative, digital social ID has also been contributing well in recent days and weeks. So I think this is really a good sign that we're seeing a significant increase in transactions now hitting towards a couple of 100,000 per day, which actually compares pretty well with a lot of chains out there. I believe I can very confidently commit to the fact that this is going to continue to increase. So bringing on a number of use cases with high volume transactions and interesting projects. So I look forward to seeing that number increase and that in the relatively near future, which is of course a good testament to both the use of the chain, but also the stability and the ability to handle it without incident. So that's all very good news. And as I said, several other high transaction volume use cases will be launched in the relatively near future. I would also say, and I'll probably get back to that with some of the questions, but with the grant program and our general focus, we very much focus on projects that deliver substantial numbers of transactions, because at the end of the day, that is what matters to the long-term success of the chain. And having seen a significant pickup in the last month or two, I think is very good for all of us. And we will continue to particularly pursue high volume projects and use cases. So it's my clear belief that this development will continue in the weeks and months to come. Next question, please. Do you have any news about the grant program? Okay, so it came already there. We tightened up the procedure around the grant program over the past month as part of the new strategy. As I said, with very clear deliverable and preference for high volume use cases. I think some use cases are relevant and proves a point, even if they don't do a large number of transactions. There could also be things where you're doing Merkle trees and things on the side of the chain, and hence you prove other ways that you can handle a very large data sets. So I think a use case doesn't necessarily have to produce a lot of transactions to be an interesting proof of concept, if you will. But in general, we put that very high on the agenda for the distribution of grants going forward. We've also introduced new deadlines to make sure that people know by when they should submit grant applications, so that we can have a controlled process and make decisions between the incoming on given dates. Obviously, there'll be new deadlines in the future, but for now, the current cohort, if you will, has a deadline of March the 1st. So if you're sitting out there and you have a great idea to get into this cohort of grants, you should get it to us very, very soon. So I think a lot of focus on deliverables of distributing the grants in tranches, so that we are sure that people are actually following up on their commitments and have a series of milestones that they achieve, which releases part of the grant. And that could be technical integration, testnet use, mainnet launch, a certain number of transactions, etc. So basically tightening up on that. It's not that our efforts in this in the past have not been satisfactory. I think we got a lot of interesting use cases, both live, but also close to going live in test mode at the moment, where they're kind of developed to a point where it's just the last test, and then we have a number of people developing also. So I think the grant program works, but we just want to tighten it up so that we're absolutely sure that it pursues the most important objectives of Concordium, and that is, of course, that the technical skill set is there, that there is a roadmap for milestones about how we get it to mainnet launch, and that's actually also a outcome of substantial numbers of transactions as a result. So the grant program is alive and well, but tighter, I would say, today than maybe in the past, and with these deadlines for various cohorts, where the next one is March 1st. If you're sitting there considering submitting an application for this round, it should be soon. Next question, please. With a persistent decline in coin price and resultant impact on overall tokenomics and funding strategies, is there a risk of destabilizing Concordium's financial framework? I believe I've already answered that. We are comfortable deep into 2025. We are, of course, looking at the long-term funding strategies on a continuous basis, like any project, but we're fine for the foreseeable future. Decline, well, in recent days, actually, we've seen some quite positive token developments. So I think that's also part of this. What is the right point to actually go out and secure additional investments? I think it's preferable that the token price is somewhat higher than it has been at times in the last 6 months. So that will also impact those decisions and activities. And at the moment, given that we're comfortable, it's not something we're spending an awful lot of time on generating more funding, but of course we will look at that during 2024 and at any point in the future, because any project is dependent on that, of course. But for now, I feel that we're very comfortable. Next question, please. When is Concordium going to target breaking into the US market? Is USD stablecoin in the plans? I recommend reading out to Ondo Finance for possibly issuing of their USDY on Concordium, currently available in ETH, Sol, and Mantle. We, as you know, have been very careful about the US markets. We certainly don't want to sell CCDs to US citizens or residents because we still feel that there's a lack of regulatory clarity in the US. So we're certainly not distributing CCDs for sale from the foundation in the US. We have the Euro E, as you know, which is a native stable coin. Actually, we do have USD stable coins wrapped on Concordex. So we have wrapped USDT, we have wrapped USDC. So there are US dollar based stable coins available in the community and in the ecosystem. So I think we're covered on that in terms of native US dollar stable coins. Looking at that, but with the wrapped versions, I think we've solved that problem to a large extent. And then, of course, we have a lot of focus on the Euro E, which is native to Concordium, and where we actually think out there are plenty of US dollar stable coins, but there's a distinct lack of credible Euro projects. And given that the Euro is at least the second most important currency in the world, we actually like to keep our focus there. But of course, if anybody has good ideas or suggestions, feel free to submit them and we'll have a look at them. Next question, please. And I brought in a couple of papers because there's so many questions this time that I just want to make sure that I have on a couple of them some additional input. So because I try to follow everything that's going on, but it is a lot and many questions this time, as I said. What is the current status of the anticipated December big use case announcement? Can we expect Fortune 500 or similar sized partnerships this year, and if so, how many? I believe we did announce Hitachi in December or early in the year, so that's certainly one of them. We are working with other very large companies, including, I would say for sure, in the Fortune 500 bracket. But as I've said many times, these partnerships are dependent on the appetite for the projects to announce. We can't just announce them because it's their projects and they have chosen us. We support them. We help them develop what they wish to do and where they need assistance from our side, but we can't actually announce them until they're ready to do so. But yes, there are other things going on. I'm very confident that these will be announced when they are ready, but it's not a decision we can make alone and say, oh, let's go out and talk about this. And I know a community is always very keen for exciting news and for big use cases, but we have to respect that particularly large companies that have their own agendas, their own media strategies, we simply have to comply to how they wish to do things. It's a different story for smaller projects, which may have similar interest in awareness and visibility, but obviously if you're dealing with a large corporate in the Fortune 500, that's not top of their mind. That top of mind thing is to build a valuable use case in a solid environment, and we're glad to see that we have some traction in that space. Next question, please. What specific accomplishments led to the selection of Giga as a preferred marketing agency for Concordium? We've been through a fairly lengthy process where we did interviews with various agencies, a beauty contest, if you will, with perhaps a handful of other potential providers. The marketing team has concluded that Giga was the best among what we looked at, and I think it's also a question of a number of external shareholders or stakeholders rather having recommended them from their own experiences. So that has also played a role that we actually have had good references on Giga. So that's our choice, having reviewed a handful of options, and we're looking forward to working with Giga going forward. Next question, please. In the light of the forthcoming MiCA regulation, are the inherent competitive advantages that Concordium possesses? I think so. I mean, that's what we've discussed many times, of course, the basic USP of the ID layer, because at the end of the day, a lot of this centers around can you comfortably know who you're dealing with inside regulation. So I'd say that's our key inherent competitive advantage. I would say that we chose to build this in at the foundational layer. I think in many other ways, with KYC plans, etc., we are suitable for use cases and projects that will be subject to regulation. So I think we're very well positioned there compared to many other blockchains, because we made that a focus right from the start, and I think have stuck firmly and trustfully to that assessment, which was actually one of the key reasons for starting Concordium in the first place, was that at that point in time, certainly there was far too little respect and too little understanding of upcoming regulation back in 17, 18 in the industry as a whole. That has improved. People realize now that, of course, there's going to be powers around this industry that will want to impose themselves in terms of how things are done, so that they're the same protections as you have in more mature industries. And that has, of course, always been a focus area for us, that we could be as prepared to meet those standards, while at the same time staying true to the decentralized nature of a true distributed blockchain. So I think these regulatory efforts are working in our favor and in our direction. So I think we're well positioned for providing a sound foundation for projects that actually will be subject to regulation. Next question, please. Hi, according to Mr. Hoskinson's speech in his AMA about Concordium, is it possible to partner with Cardano in the near future for Concordium? I know Charles very well. We are friends since many years, and of course we discuss things around the industry on an ongoing basis. We have a lot of respect, I think, on both sides for the scientific work, the technical work, and we're discussing things with multiple blockchains on an ongoing basis. So without going too much into detail, that there are talks, and I think there should be, between the serious blockchains in this space, and Cardano is certainly one of them, with a great science team and very good technology. So we have conversations with them as we have with others. Next question, please. The move towards decentralization was well received, yet lacks clarity. What's the path forward? I hope it doesn't lack clarity. We spent a good time running through what this actually means in specific terms. So I think, maybe with all due respect, this question lacks a little bit clarity, because if there's something you would like us to expand on, we're happy to do so. But the path forward is, of course, decentralization. It is engaging people around us more. It is building a more vibrant developer community, general community, supporting use cases as well as possible, and focusing internally our resources on that. That is a very important part of their responsibilities. It's not just about us building centralized stuff. There are some things, of course, the core blockchain, etc., that we have to have full control over, because it's absolutely mission critical. But we very much want to get people around us to also build building blocks, and that's also part of the grant program. If you can build accessoric tools that are important, but maybe not projects in their own right, but important for interfacing and interacting with Concordium, we're also interested in supporting that, and we'll also be pushing out specific things that we would like built with some incentivation to do so. That's part of the new hires we have on developing the community for developers. So we are putting a lot more focus on that. But in general, it is about engaging people around us. The ambassador program is another example of that we actually want to arm people with tools that they can help spread the word, and that is also progressing well. I think there's between 20 and 30 ambassadors signed up now. You're very welcome to apply for that if you are really interested in Concordium, because we need people out there to help spread the word. But in general, the path forward, of course, is decentralization, because that is what the strategy is, and that goes across nearly all aspects of what we're doing, with the exception of of very core blockchain developments and very core tools that we just absolutely need to make sure works the way that we envisage them to work. Next question, please. Is CCD also thinking about working with governments? I mean, to me, CCD and its possibilities to work well with, for example, elections, voting, etc. Yes, and you may recall the project that we're working on with some scientists, some universities, and Greenland, where we are still working on exploring a voting mechanism. I think it's going to be a while before the next U.S. election is executed on blockchain. It might be a good idea given the problems they have with those elections, but I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But the Greenland project, for example, is an interesting template, an interesting project that might be able to spill into something that can be used elsewhere. So I agree with you. A lot of elections could be executed comfortably and safely on blockchain, not just political elections, but also shareholder elections in companies, annual general meetings, various associations, and we have one or two use cases also looking at that. So I agree with you. And if there's any governments out there that want to explore that, we're more than happy to give them some input. But for now, certainly we have the Greenland project that is still in progress. Next question, please. Do the activities of Cobra still continue? Can you give a new report of the activities? Yes, Cobra is the research department on Aarhus University and their cryptographic science department. We still have several PhDs there working on grants from us, and a good relationship to many of the top-notch cryptographers that they have on Aarhus University. This may not be as much a household name as MIT or some other universities, but in fact, Aarhus University has, for historical reasons, been an absolute leader in cryptography for the past 40 years, and always ranks very, very highly on university rankings of cryptography. So Cobra is alive and well, still PhDs working there on our grants, and still a very good relationship to some of the core professors that give very valuable input, particularly when we're into sort of the more long-haired aspects of cryptography. So that's the status there. Next question, please. The strategy presentation mentioned a lot of things that already should have happened. Do you believe Concordium can still catch up with other layer ones? Again, a little bit unclear. I don't think that we are behind. There are actually many areas where we are ahead. We have a great finality layer that works with very, very high speed. We have great consensus layer that also functions very, very well. We have the ID that we are pretty much alone with as a foundational implementation. So I don't actually agree with the premise for the question, but next time perhaps explain a little bit more what it is you mean here. But I believe we're well positioned and have a very competitive and very efficient blockchain compared to many others out there. There are a number of other good projects, of course, but but there's nothing there that I don't think that we perform very well with as a foundational blockchain. Next question, please. Are the plans to reduce fees for transactions for NFTs or games, or incentivize them to join the Concordium blockchain? In fact, as you probably saw, we dramatically reduced fees not so long ago, which of course affects anybody out there that are building on Concordium. The reason we did that was because of the linear progression of fees, where we felt that complex transactions were too expensive. We're working with that as a separate initiative to find a long-term solution for that. But in the meantime, reduced the fees by a very substantial amount, and will potentially eventually raise them a little bit again for basic transactions. But that's something we will see as we also see how we manage to build the entire fee structure around complex transactions. For now, fees are very low. They're very competitive, and I don't think they should in any way be a hindrance or a hurdle for anybody to build whatever they want on Concordium, be that NFTs or games or anything else. So I think we are highly competitive, and in contrary to a number of other competitive things out there, these are actually layer one registrations, not layer twos that aggregate and then push down to a layer one, which raises, in many cases, entirely different security aspects. So I think we're very competitive at the moment. We would like games, of course. We have a few games building. We have NFT platforms as well. So, but anybody else sitting out there with something exciting, let us know about it, and we will see if you need any assistance, we'll be happy to give it. If you qualify for a grant, we will also look at that. Next question, please. It doesn't spark confidence when millions of team allocations are sent to exchanges while you present the H1 strategy. When can we expect transparency? I don't think it's a really big problem. I think I've spoken to that before. For example, I for sure am not selling any CCDs, so you can rest assured about that. I don't think the vast majority of the team is. There are a few tax complications for some people, which means that they become immediately taxable on some staking gains, so that can affect it a little bit. But it's not people selling out of core holdings because they don't believe in the project or anything like that, as far as I'm informed. But there are some tax aspects for certain people which can force them to meet some immediate tax obligations. This is a problem in some European countries. Other places it's not, but people, of course, have to comply with whatever rules they're forced to comply with. We will have a note on that in the transparency report, which I just told you would be coming on March the 1st. So there'll be a little bit more about that, but I don't think it's a major issue going forward. Next question, please. Where's the team? Why aren't they present on social media? Why isn't there follow-up on questions? Why not speak at conferences or present Concordium tech? Why not lead by example? Again, I have to disagree a little bit with the premise here. I think actually in our Telegram channel and elsewhere, answers are provided very quickly and diligently by our moderators. So I don't agree with the premise, but maybe you're speaking more to why am I not on Telegram all the time, and why is the CFO or the CMO not on Telegram all the time? Well, we could be, and I know there are founders out there that spend a lot of time on social media, but I think actually our time is better spent trying to build the business, trying to build Concordium, trying to engage use cases. That being said, I will consider a little bit whether we should encourage people to spend a little time occasionally on social media, also from like the management, etc. But don't expect us to sit there all day, because we have a lot of other stuff to do, and I think actually that is probably more valuable for us to spend time there. In the meantime, we have allocated a number of managers that I believe are diligently following up as well as they can. And sometimes if the questions are difficult for them to answer, refer them back to us. Also, please make a distinction between questions to use cases and questions to Concordium specifically, right? We're very happy to answer any question related to Concordium, but in many cases, we can't necessarily always answer a question about a use case. First of all, we don't represent them directly. Secondly, we may not know the question, but know the answer to the question. But we should perhaps also encourage some of the use cases to spend a little bit more time in these channels, because of course for them it's also interesting to be exposed to the community and have conversations with them. I know some of the use cases do that. SERX is very active, I've noticed, and others are as well. But there are also people that are not, and we'll encourage them to get in there and answer questions. We are at a number of conferences. I go to quite a few. Sometimes I speak, sometimes I don't. But I actually think the primary value of conferences is not necessarily the speeches, but the conversations you have around the conference, and when you meet other industry leaders, that you can spend time with them and discussing the industry as a whole and more specific initiatives. So I think it's a little bit a question of how do we spend our time best, and that's an assessment I have to make. I'm a fairly busy guy. I also have a few other things, and Concordium, although this is without a question the portfolio company I'm spending most time on, but I do have other things as well, and I have to sometimes prioritize a little bit. Next question, please. I'm just trying to, because I have a pop-up here on my screen. I don't think you can necessarily see it, but I would like to get rid of it. And there it went, so that's good. Why is MySomi ID canceled? We didn't get awful lot of traction on it, and maybe there's a missing product market fit there. So we have not necessarily canceled it, but put it on hold. That being said, a lot of the stuff that was developed in connection with MySomi ID actually is very relevant for what we're building in the Web3 ID. So it's not that some of this functionality or some of this is just wasted. I think it has added significant value in terms of the development being reused in the Web3 ID. And with the Web3 ID, there are also people that are engaging with us to do things similar to MySomi ID and other places where they need verifiable credentials, etc. So I think it was a worthwhile exercise. Actually, I would also say if anybody wants to work with the quite significant development that's made around MySomi ID, I believe the code is available, and you might be able to use that in some of your ID-related project. I think it's on GitHub, some of the code. And if not, reach out to us. But it definitely has created some interesting learnings that we benefit from in other contexts. Next question, please. What frightens me is that new initiatives alongside basic things can't be completed, like an up-to-date website, a clarity about use cases and the overall ecosystem. Why is this so hard to do? I don't actually agree again with the premise. I actually just checked it this morning. If you go into the website, you can see the majority of use cases that we have working. We have a bunch of them that are not up there yet. Agreed. This is a little bit about whether they're ready for it and where we think they are in the process. But I guess it's good news that there's more stuff happening than what's immediately visible on the website. But we do have people that keep it up to date. I think in general the new website was well received, and we communicate also about new partners and new use cases, not just on the website but in in X, in Telegram, in various other places. So we update this on an ongoing basis. The website, there's stuff there that will be added as we go along. There's stuff happening at the moment that's not necessarily yet on the website. So you have something to look forward to. But I think in general the website covers pretty well what we do, and I recommend that you just look a little bit around on the website, because there's actually quite a lot of stuff in there, right? So have a look around and see if you still feel the same way, and then maybe be a little bit more specific if you're saying that are basic things that you're missing. I don't immediately know what those would be, but feel free to let us know. Next question. Digitization and a European digital identity wallet are currently a hot topic at the EU. Is Concordium reaching out to the EU to help them develop a solution? I believe actually they've chosen a provider for the digital identity wallet. Incidentally, it's a large IT company where I know the founder very well. So I'm a little bit in the loop on what's going on there. I don't know if there could be any collaboration opportunities there. We're generally speaking frequently to the EU Commission and keeping them abreast of Concordium, them keeping us abreast of what they're focusing on. So I think we have a fairly good relationship there. But the European Digital Identity Wallet would always, in my view, be outsourced to a large, well-known IT company. And I believe that they have actually chosen a provider for that. Incidentally, the same provider that has done the Danish national digital identity. But we'll keep track of the situation. Next question, please. After months of talk about liquidity and promise to take action, the situation remains the same. Low liquidity, no new exchanges, no other way for team members than to send tokens to exchanges. When will this be dealt with? Don't entirely agree with the premise of that either. If you actually look at what's happening in the last month or so, since we made it a very specific objective, you will see that there's more volume on the exchanges. You will see also that there's more volatility in the token, which I think is a good thing, because that's interesting for traders. Given particularly my own background in those areas, I keep a very close eye on what we do to make the whole CCD environment more interesting for traders. How do we reach out to them in their communities? How do we get more on-ramps? We are also speaking to exchanges, and I have hopes that we will add one in the not too distant future. But we are looking at many ways to make the CCD a more interesting object and a more accessible object. Another thing we're looking at are analytical tools, AI-based tools that have some predictive capabilities. We might launch that for several tokens, including CCD, during the first half. But I don't entirely agree with the premise. I think volatility is increasing. I think volumes are increasing. So I think we are clearly moving in the right direction there. Next question, please. We have given a lot of feedback on the new website. A lot of information is still missing, e.g. use cases are not there, outdated information. Can you appoint one dedicated person to fix this ASAP? I touched a little bit on the website, so I'm not going to go back into that. I actually do believe there's quite a lot there. Is there more to come? Absolutely. Is that a good thing? Absolutely. Are there people looking after the website? Absolutely. So I would recommend, if you haven't done it recently, that you have a good look around. And I actually think the website is very nice and gives a good impression of what we're doing. And as I said, there will be more stuff added to it, and that's something to look forward to. Next question, please. It's a little bit along the same line. I can see the following use cases are not visible on the overview. When can we expect them to be included? Meta, Akita, Edubug, Verita, Trust, Ecolance, Optiva, Sanyo, Cyphers, Me, the Phi. Well, I mean, if nothing else, thank you for making us all aware that there's stuff going on out there, even if we haven't at this point decided to publish them on the website. But I think it's a very good example that there's actually quite a lot going on. We put it on when we feel that the projects are ready for it, or when they feel that they're ready for it. So just underlying my previous point that there's stuff to look forward to, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think we cover the majority of it, but this is work in progress, and it'll continue to be so. Good inflow of interesting use cases and people looking at Concordium, and these are obviously some examples that you have noticed. Thank you for that. Next question, please. When can we expect the first actions by Giga? I believe that the first planned campaign will be around Euro E, and we'll do some stuff there, and then we will take it from there. But my impression is that the first campaign will be around Euro E, and that will be quite soon. But that's of course not a standalone thing, and we'll be doing a number of things together with Giga going forward. Next question, please. Have specific KPIs been agreed upon with Giga? If yes, what are they? It's a relatively new relationship. We're doing some workshops with them, I know, to define what exactly we want them to focus on. So I don't believe that at this point has delivered any specific KPIs. I'm sure there will be some, but currently that's a new relationship and work in progress. So stay tuned. Next question, please. Which initiative in H1 do you believe the most important, will have the greatest impact in attracting the development community to actively participate in building on Concordium? Well, I think the increased focus that we have on the developer community is, of course, very important. We introduced earlier Ayo, who has a background in this space and has joined us from other similar functions in other projects. So his direct mission is to support the developer community and attract more developers. We actually just did another hire, Amy, who I don't know if has been introduced to the broader community, but also with that focus. So setting up the general developer community and also building local community hubs. So it's a strong focus area for us, and we're putting resource towards it, and I'm sure we'll begin to see results of that during H1. Next question, please. During the AMA in Q4 2023, you spoke about two bigger partnerships being in the works. The first one was a collaboration with Hitachi. When can we expect the second one? I feel I kind of covered that before. There are other substantial corporates that we are talking with. One, I would say, is as a solution provider for some of their clients. Some are with specific clients, and again, here we are really dependent on those larger organizations when they want to announce and what they want to announce. It's not something we can make the decision on alone. We're not sitting holding it back. If we could, we'd be delighted to, because I think it's interesting use cases, and it'd be great to tell you about them. But we have to respect their processes and their communication strategy. So definitely stuff is going on. I can guarantee you that. When exactly we can announce is a little bit out of my hand. Next question, please. We learned during the strategy presentation for H1 that some new developments with our wallet are in the works. Any updates on that? Yes, I can give you some idea of the direction we're taking there, and I think that's very important because the wallet is very much the the gate to a blockchain, and we wanna release a more engaging wallet with much more uh, interaction and much more information to the users. Of course, it'll be able to do the basic stuff that a wallet should be able to do, but we also foresee launching a number of various contents windows. Actually, most of them populated by external parties, but that could be things like projects announcing new developments. That could be new NFT launches. It could be trading tools. It could be price feeds. It could be news stories. So the idea here is to create a wallet that actually will be interesting for you to engage with, also beyond the point where you actually need to make a CCD transfer or something like that. We are also going to reduce the hurdle for entry in that uh, for downloading the new wallet with a number of new functionalities and new things that we think will be interesting for the community, and an interesting display window for projects, for ourselves, for various content providers. We will actually allow download of the wallet without immediate going through the full identification process, because at that point there is no real need for the ID. If you then proceed to wishing to do something where you need to have an account on the blockchain, or you need to interact with an NFT platform or do a transfer, etc., then we will introduce the ID process, which incidentally has been made much smoother. So it's a lot easier to do, but it's still to a certain extent a hurdle, and we want to make sure that people can learn about Concordium, get introduced to what we do in an environment like a wallet, without necessarily having to go through that hurdle before it's necessary. So I think that will make a much higher success rate of people that actually go in and decide to look at the wallet. Today, there's a certain drop off when people have to present identity documents, etc. That's understandable, because if you don't have a specific purpose that you want to do this for at that point in time, would you really want to hand out your ID? So there's some degree of hurdle there. We want to remove that so you can go into the wallet and learn about Concordium, see interesting stuff, see some of the use cases and projects that are on Concordium. And only if you decide to do something where ID then is required, then we will present that. We think that that should make for uh, significantly larger numbers in wallet onboarding, and that's our thinking on that. And I would also say to you, if you are a project or use case or an analyst or somebody that provides interesting information, the idea here is to partner with some external content providers that will get a little space in the wallet where they can present whatever it is that they're doing that we consider jointly to be of interest for the community. So if you're sitting out there having something interesting that you think would interest the Concordium community, feel free to reach out to us, and we will consider that for this new wallet work. Next question, please. What are Concordium goals from commercial perspective? The lack of amount of announced use cases in 2024 is worrying me, as we have to gear up to stay relevant. What are your KPIs? Um, I think there are actually quite a number of use cases being announced, and there are more to come. As you notice in one of the former questions, there's stuff out there that's not necessarily immediately visible on the website, and there's a whole range of projects in progress, a number of them in testing currently, and sort of finished projects, but doing the last tests before going live. You will see also that, as we talked about earlier, the number of transactions are significantly up, will continue to go significantly up in coming weeks and months in my expectation. So I think we are definitely moving in the right direction, and we stated some of the KPIs in the strategy session, but these are around more accounts, more transactions, more engagements with the community, etc. So if you want to really go into detail with that, I suggest that you watch the beginning or maybe all of the strategy presentation, where we actually state quite clearly the KPIs I mentioned, plus some other stuff around interoperability, etc. So feel free to review that one. I think it's anyway, if there was another question that they felt that there was a lack of clarity about the strategy, I don't agree, but maybe you haven't seen that presentation, and maybe that's an opportunity to remove that lack of clarity if you feel that you have that. Then it's easily found on concordium.com/live, where all of our old presentations are available, and also on our YouTube channel. So if you feel you can't remember the details of the strategy, or you haven't watched that presentation, I think it's definitely worth the while for you to do so. Next question, please. We've been told there are hundreds of high-quality leads, yet this doesn't lead to a lot of announcements. Is there enough workforce to handle these leads? Are you experiencing bottlenecks? What are the reasons they don't opt in? I think there are hundreds of leads. Are they all high quality? I don't think we can state that with it. I don't think we ever did state that, but there are hundreds of leads coming in on a continuous basis, and I do believe that that it leads to a number of announcements, and we just covered that before. We are, as I said, in connection with the grant program and other in general focusing more and more on projects and use cases that really will move the dial. So there's a certain prioritization where we have a role to play. Now, of course, there's nothing stopping you. You want to build on Concordium, you can go ahead and do so with or without our support. But of course, we have to prioritize, and we prioritize stuff that will drive some of the KPIs I adhered to earlier, not least transactions. And I think you're beginning to see some of the results of that. If you go into the CCD scan or the Concordium Explorer, you can see that that numbers of transactions are going up and splitting out over more use cases. Now, you will always have, in any context in life, the sort of variations of the 80-20 rule. Activity will never be equally distributed across all your traders in Saxo Bank, or all your projects, or the returns in your portfolio. It is sort of the 20% cream of the crop, and that could be anywhere from 5 to 30, but let's say 80-20, because that's the number people always use. That will drive the majority, and then there'll be a long tail of stuff following behind that. And that may change. People that do a lot today may do less another day, and people that are not doing so much may all of a sudden get traction. But at the end of the day, you will boil down to some kind of 80-10-20 distribution. So I think you will see the same thing, but the overall number of activities are going up, and that's a good thing. Are we experiencing bottlenecks? We all have a lot to do, and I think you always would like a few more hands available. But I think we're handling and prioritizing and getting some good stuff over the line. And as I said, we have, I think, more than a dozen in late stages of testing that should be shortly live, and also beginning to drive transactions. So I think we're on the right track there. But of course, from any incoming lead, you have a funnel, and you end up with the best and hopefully the most relevant projects from a funnel that starts out in a wider place. Next question, please. You're also involved in football with FC Copenhagen. Absolutely. I'm very excited about my football team. As you know, I refer to it occasionally. And are there any partnership plans with Parken? We haven't we haven't gone deep into Web3 at this point. And I think the more interesting thing in this area is really use cases that provide a template that can be used across a whole range of sports clubs and artists, etc. Right? I think going from like one stadium to the next, to the next, to the next, doing individual use cases is probably not very scalable, and in each case would derive relatively limited value. So I'd rather talk to people that are trying to solve this on a more generic level and produce something that could work for FC Copenhagen, but could also work for a whole bunch of other football clubs. So that's where our focus lies. Actually, we spent all day yesterday discussing a number of sort of templates with some external parties around what could we do to have some more plug and play turnkey solutions that could support a number of use cases rather than just one at a time. So yes, keep an eye on FC Copenhagen, and we'll work on those sort of things at a more generic level. Next question, please. How can you state you want to move towards decentralization while the team isn't engaging with the community and questions need to be repeated before they get an answer or any follow-up? I think I answered that before, really. I actually do think that our community managers follow up very diligently. Sometimes it's a question that they have to bring to somebody else and they have to prioritize and find time to answer it. I think we get the majority of questions answered in a reasonable time frame. Otherwise, we'll put the question here, right? And you get an immediate answer. So I think we're not doing too bad on that. Again, if this is a reference to you'd like to see some of the management team out there every now and again, it is a prioritization effort. But there could be an argument that we should spend a little time, myself included, out there. But then, of course, we can't be inundated with 70, 80 questions as I'm trying to get through here today, because then this is a much more efficient way to do it. But to be there, I actually do look at our channels quite frequently, and I do make mental notes of things that pop up there and I think are relevant for our development and our prioritization. So it's not that I never look at our channels. I hope you know that. I also run my own Twitter channel where I'm fairly active. So we are keeping an eye on these communities, but maybe we should make ourselves a little bit more visible occasionally. But it is a fine balance, because in many ways this is maybe a more efficient way to deal with your questions and get them done, a number of them, a lot of them, in a short time frame. But we'll think about it. Thank you. Next question, please. Wouldn't it be better to connect with some well-known VCs that can utilize their network to boost use cases, partnerships, and liquidity for Concordium? Why not onboard some well-known industry giants on the board too? Yeah, sure. I mean, we do have some VCs in the current token distribution. Some better known than others. Would we like more of those? As I mentioned, given that I feel comfortable about where we are financially for well into 2025, I don't think it's very urgent seen from a financial point of view, but it could, of course, as you say, have other related values. But of course, it takes two to tango. It's also for the VCs to find that interesting. It's also for us to estimate, do we really want to pull them in when the token is trading at a relatively low level? Seems like we're trading a little bit higher recently. So this is an ongoing consideration. It's probably quite a lot on my shoulders, because I know a lot of VCs out there, and right now I'm not prioritizing it very, very highly, to be honest. I might do later in the year, but if you know of some VCs that are interested, we're always very happy to speak to them. But us going out very proactively at this point is not really where I spent the majority of my time. I know a lot of VCs. I'm actually invested in several crypto funds myself. So it's not that we couldn't get through the door, but I think it's about the right timing in many aspects, and also the right names. If we want to take on board any VCs, it should be quality, and it takes a lot of process and a lot of work to go through that, because of course a good VC will have a lengthy process, and again, it's a question. There's only 24 hours in the day, only 7 days a week, and is that something that we feel we should spend an awful lot of time on, because it is very time consuming, those kind of road shows? at the moment, not a high priority, but if you're sitting out there, you are VC, you want to speak to us, feel free to reach out, and in the meantime, we'll look at that during 2024 for a more suitable time for that. Next question, please. Have you considered having employees more directly involved in communication on Telegram? Most other cryptos do this, and it's clear that the lack of it creates dissatisfaction in the community. I think I probably answered that question a couple of times now. I hear what you're saying. We do have the community managers out there, but we will consider whether we should show our presence there a little bit more. As I said, I personally do follow it because I think it not every 5 minutes, but I do go in and read through a few hundred posts when something has gathered, and I think it does add valuable input to what we're doing in the various channels. So I'll hear your input here because it's been mentioned a couple of times, and we'll consider being a little bit more actively engaged from time to time. Next question, please. Do you push use cases to interact with the community on, for example, Telegram? The community on Telegram wants to help and advertise for use cases, but often we cannot get simple questions about use cases answered, making it hard to help. A little bit around the same area of question that we've talked about. There is a distinction between Concordium-related questions that we are responsible for answering and use case questions where we can't really speak on behalf of the use cases because it's not our projects and we may or may not have the necessary information. And as I said earlier, we could ask our use cases to be more engaged. Some of them are, some of them are not, and of course many of them have an interest themselves in being more awareness and more visibility to the community. And of course, as you say, just like many of you help Concordium by sharing our stories, etc., you could do the same for the use cases. So I don't see why a use case wouldn't be interested in doing so. So we will definitely speak to some of the use cases around whether that wouldn't make a lot of sense for them. One thing I want to flag, it's a little bit into the future, but we're playing a little bit on the thought of within the grant program, occasionally offering a little competition to the community. Say here 2 use cases, which one of them would you fund, and get your input on that. It's not going to happen tomorrow, so I just want to put a disclaimer there. But I think it could be quite interesting for the community to take an active view on could this use case A be more interesting use case B, and obviously by making that assessment, perhaps feel more associated with the use case and thereby helping them off to a good start. So that's one of the things we're considering at the moment. But again, won't be tomorrow, but could be interesting to hear if you think that would be a fun idea or not. Next question, please. Fun question. Thank you for that. Given the slow adoption of use case and active users, when can we expect Concordium to qualify for the Champions League before or after ever FC Copenhagen wins the trophy? Well, FC Copenhagen is a little bit in dire straits, having lost the 8th final 1-3 at home to Manchester City. So now we have to go and beat the world's best team away. So we probably won't win the Champions League trophy this year. But I think we did very well, and I think actually we do pretty well in Concordium as well. I've already commented on use cases and transactions, etc., and I think we clearly have a good trend there. How do we define Champions League in blockchain? Is that who has the biggest community? Is that who has the best technology? Is that who has the best feature set? Is that who has the best science? I think in some of these areas we are in the Champions League. In others, we're clearly more Conference League. But I think there are areas where we actually are in the Champions League, and there's of course the areas we should focus on, and the particular areas around the solidity and the functionality of the blockchain is obviously a reason why there are large corporates also, in addition to all the the other use cases and projects that actually bigger corporates also consider using Concordium. So in that sense, I believe we are in the Champions League, ID, finality, scalability, speed, but in other areas like community, we're clearly smaller than some of the other communities out there. But that's also where you can help and assist and help spread the word. So please always do that. Share our messaging. We now made that, I think, a lot easier with the digital asset management system, where we put actually at your disposal a number of tools to help spread the word in a professional way. We have the ambassador program that I mentioned. If you're sitting out there and you really feel you wanted to do more, be more actively engaged, apply for the ambassador program, and we'll look at it with you. So please also help us in this process of getting the word out to an ever larger audience. Next question, please. What do you think of Takens and their focus on CBX, while the roadmap for Concadex, it should have been complete in Q4 23, remains largely unresolved? I don't agree with the premise here. I believe the roadmap that was promised by Concadex has been delivered in terms of functionality. Actually, in some cases, over-delivered with the trading view charts, etc., which was not in the original plan. So I actually believe that Takens has delivered the roadmap for Concadex and should be commended for that. So also I saw recently that transactions are picking up somewhat on Concadex, so go in, have a look at it. It's a well-functioning DEX. We need more activity on it, without question. I think there's a prospect of a token generation event, which has been deliberately postponed a little bit for time with better conditions and better activity levels. And that, as far as I know, is a conscious decision. But in terms of the technology and the functionality, I think it has been delivered as promised by Takens. And in fact, I think the work that they also do on other DEXs is without question beneficial for Concadex, as some of that functionality would ultimately be possible to share with Concadex, in that it's sort of the same people developing it. So I actually think Takens should be commended for their commitment to Concordium and the work that they've done on Concadex. Next question, please. Hitachi, can you say anything about when you expect that test to roll out, and for which Concordium wallets? Has there been agreed any form of exclusivity period before other blockchains will be offered the technology? Again, here we are in the realm of a large corporate that actually are in control of their communication. I can say that we're working actively with them, but there will be this release. Obviously, we think it will be available on the browser wallet as a first start, but we're working with them. It's an exciting project, and we are looking forward to releasing it. But again, with these large corporates, they play very much to their own rule book, and that we have to respect, and that's just the way that is, no matter what we would like or not like. So next question, please. Hitachi is part of an alliance with several other Concordium partners. Details have been shared in the main chat. NTT, Fujitsu, Hitachi, Mitsubishi, they're working on the SSID and stablecoins. What does Concordium know about this? We're obviously keeping an eye on particularly on Hitachi, but also other players in that industry. So we are keeping an eye on it. But again, what we are and what we are not working on with big corporates, we would love to tell you about it, but it is down to those guys to tell you, not us. Next question, please. Are there any indications that give hope for TradFi use cases? Other layer ones are publishing increasingly impressive partnerships with TradFi. The short answer is yes. There are hopes for TradFi use cases. As you know, I have here directly on the team several experienced TradFi team members that some of them I know from Saxo Bank, some of them from other financial institutions. So we have a fairly deep experience of the pain points in TradFi and the inefficiency in TradFi, and trust me, there are many. So we do understand the challenges these people face, and we do believe a number of these could be solved with blockchain in general, with Web3 ID, etc. So yes, we are in contact with several financial institutions in different jurisdictions that typically have particular interest in the ID layer and the efficiencies that could give them in terms of client onboarding and client lifecycle management system also across multiple jurisdictions. So the short answer is yes, there are conversations and activities going on. The other thing I would like to mention is our own real-world asset tokenization platform that we have released some of the code already on GitHub, and that will make it a lot easier for people to build real-world asset use cases. In fact, just this morning, we approved a grant to somebody that's going to use that infrastructure to tokenize real-world assets. So with that, where we're going to have a full launch of that platform very soon, and people will tell you more about that in isolation and in detail. And that, of course, will be a helpful tool for people wanting to do RWA tokenization cases. So yes, we are looking at that space, and there's no question that blockchain can do a lot for the TradFi industry. There's also no question that very clear regulatory conditions and frameworks need to be in place for people to go into this for real. And that is, of course, a challenge. Of course, many jurisdictions that are holding back TradFi institutions from really engaging, although a lot of them are playing around with it and doing sandbox type things. Next question, please. What is the most exciting things from behind the scenes at Concordium that can at least hint at? I think we mentioned already quite a few things, but I think if we're talking things that moves the dial, there's a lot of interesting things, but things that really makes a difference. I think the increase in transactions that I think is clearly predictable is very good. I think the real world asset tokenization platform that I just mentioned is a real improvement to people that are building use cases in that space. I think that a number of other areas are also that the increased focus on developer communities, I think, is also very important. So I think there are a whole range of things that we are working on. There are a couple, as I adhere to, but unfortunately couldn't say more about bigger use cases out there. So there are a number of things here that I think will make H1 exciting. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, and that means keep an eye on transactions, keep an eye on new use cases, keep an eye on new functionalities, and help us build that developer community together with Ayo and Amy. So I think there are a lot of pretty exciting things in the outlook for the next few months. Next question, please. Is a plan for national EID integration that can be shared with the community, say end of 2025? How many communities do you foresee being included in the e-onboarding process? Well, of course, it requires that a country has an EID functionality, and not all countries by a long way have that at the moment. Right now, we are linked up to the Danish EID system. We're linked up to the Finland EID system. I believe we are pretty close with the Netherlands, with Holland, and actually also with the NIN system in Nigeria and the national identity number. So there are a couple of things coming up there, and of course we look at what's out there and where's actually possible to derive some benefits, but it also depends on what the country actually has. And even in Europe, I would say the majority of countries don't have the type of very efficient EID that we have in Denmark and Finland, for example. So I can't really say how many countries would be there at the end of 2025, but I can say that it makes a lot of sense. Excuse me. It makes a lot of sense for us to integrate with these systems because it makes the identification process easier. It makes it cheaper, incidentally. So for sure, we're not holding back if we see places where it's a relevant addition. But again, takes two to tango. You need to have an efficient eID national system in order to do that integration. Next question, please. Boosty Labs, amazing press release explaining that Boosty are biggest and best and how the collaboration will bring corporate adoption by incubating use case. No news, no updates, no results. Boosty Labs is a great organization, and I have a very good relationship to the CEO and founder, Victor, from Boosty Labs. We discuss a number of interesting ideas on an ongoing base. Very specifically, Boosty is currently working on the Tricorn bridge, which is important in that it will bridge more assets to and from Concordium. Also allow us to bridge RAP CCD to other DEXs and other chains. So we have an ongoing collaboration with Boosty. We have discussed some use cases, dismissed some because we didn't really believe that they would drive sufficient adoption, and still discussing a few others. But I'd say the core collaboration currently is around the Tricorn bridge, and I think that'll be a very important addition to the Concordium ecosystem and interoperability of the CCD to other DEXs and other blockchains. Next question, please. Mid-2023, Holger stated 10 committed token launches. What is happening? What are more clear plans shared transparently? I asked Holger that question just to be sure that I answered it correctly, and he asked me to stress that there's difference between token launches, but and commitments to using the token standard CIS2, which is our token standard, right? So that in essence means that there are 10, if not even a little bit more projects that are committed to using that standard, which also means that eventually they will launch tokens. But of course, whenever they choose to do their TGE, their token generation event, and when they feel that's right, and when they use Concordat and Concordex for that is very much up to them. So it's really about committing to using the CIS2 standard, and there that number is correct, and the timing of it will depend on these projects' preferences, and but basically with Concordat and Concordex, the infrastructure is there. So it's really up to the projects when they decide to do that. And that could be shorter term or longer term. Next question, please. Concordex roadmap was supposed to be completed. I think we have already had this question, but I will repeat that I believe the Concordex has delivered all of the technical stuff and a bit more. So in that sense, the only thing that is delayed consciously and deliberately is token generation event, and as also posted here, and in the former question, yes, Takens is working on other projects, and from that, I think we should actually not be concerned about that, but happy about it, because that's a general learning curve, and some of that learning would be transferable to Concordex in the future. But the Concordex deliverable on the exchange itself is completed and has delivered at least what was promised, and the TGE is deliberately postponed to a time when we think that will have the best odds of being very successful. Next question, please. Holger states that 4 projects actively building have confirmed they will integrate Vert.io. Wondering why nothing has transpired in regard to now 14 months later. Who's using Vert.io? I also asked Holger about that, just to be sure I answered correctly. But Vert is integrated in the low-code framework for Concordium's Agora marketplace, and also future low-code frameworks with Vert.io as a fiat on-ramp. Furthermore, specific use cases using Vert.io is Climify, Space7 in production, and Cyphers.me, and one unannounced in progress. So 4 or 5 projects there, Holger told me about. Next question. Wow, there's so many questions here, but I'll try to get through this quickly. Connections to other blockchain use IBC or Layer 0 will be implemented in the fall of 2023 to link Concordium to larger ecosystem. Not done and seems forgotten, ignored. So, IBC is not forgotten, and a lot of investigation has gone into IBC. What my tech guys are telling me is that even if we believe IBC is good, they probably will not move forward with this protocol. What they instead would like to do is focus on connecting more smoothly into the Ethereum ecosystem. So I'll leave that for the next Tech AMA, and you can ask more questions into that. Next question. We'll investigate fully private payments that build on the shielded transaction features already present. Isn't this exactly what the new CTO is now saying again? When firm timelines, deadlines. Again, here I had to refer to Nibras, the CTO. And she told me we have investigated the landscape from a product and science perspective, and what we like to investigate in H1 is to work with actual use cases who are asking for this functionality in order to deliver the correct solution to the market. Next question, please. Arbella should have had a KYC as a service in 2023. Is this cancelled? No. In fact, Arbella does have KYC functions when you go onto that bridge, and together with the Web3 ID, we're still working on various ways that we make these as portable between use cases as possible, so you don't have to repeat a KYC. So short answer is not cancelled. No. Next question, please. More DEX likely in 23. No news to follow up. Same section also promised crypto lending services launching in 23. Yet no news and no update. The introduction of Tricorn actually will make, as I described, will make wrap CCD available on potentially a range of important DEXs externally from the Concordium blockchain. So I think that's very important. And when Tricorn goes live, it'll be investigated what the right course of action and the candidates are here. I'm just referring back to an answer I received here. So in that sense, CCD should, with Tricorn, wrap CCD be available on other DEXs currently, and I don't know what was referred to in the transparency report last time, whether that was this actually making it available on external DEXs or more DEXs. I don't know, but right now, in terms of native DEXs, the full focus from our side, at least at the moment, is on ConcaDEX, and of course, we'd be delighted for anybody else that want to build a DEX, but seen from our point of view right now, that is what we have on our radar and are working on. Next one, please. So far, we have successfully supported the implementation of 20 use cases on the Concordium blockchain. We anticipate an additional 20 to go live by the end of third quarter 2023. 22 live on the website. So this is another reference to the transparency report last time. I think, again, I asked this question. I think the number of things in progress is quite substantial. As I mentioned, more than a dozen sitting in testing phases, i.e. built, but testing before launch. Some projects have experienced delays. I think that's understandable, and we have internally committed significant resource to make sure that they got over the line and eventually get over the line. And as I said, that developed into currently quite a couple of handfuls sitting in late testing stages and about to go live. Some of them actually will good transaction potential. So let me just say a word or two about the transparency report here, because now there's been like 5 or 6 questions referring back to that, and that's fine, because what we say, we're fine with being held accountable for it. But I also have to say, unfortunately, I don't sit with a crystal ball, right? We try to give the best possible guidance that we can. We try to say what we believe at any given point in time, and obviously the transparency report was, I don't know, more than a year ago, and some of the things have outperformed, some of the things have underperformed, some of them are pretty much on target. So of course you'll be able to find here something where it didn't go exactly according to plan. Now, I would like to be able to still give as much guidance as we reasonably can with the information we have at hand. So if you expect that every single thing we ever say is gonna be exactly like we predicted 12, 18, 24 months before, think again, because it doesn't work that way. None of us have a crystal ball. This is a fast-moving market with lots of changes all the time, and we just try to give a guidance, and happy to update on them. But also, when you receive the new transparency report on the 1st of March, I'm sure there'll be stuff in there. Some of it we will over-deliver on, some of it will be disappointed on or experience delays on, and some of it will be spot on target, and that's the way it has to be, right? If we can't have that understanding with the community, it's going to be very difficult, because then we simply have to release less information. If we can only release something that we're 100% sure that will be delivered at a certain point, well, then the information is going to be a lot less, and that's why a word like anticipate is used there. It doesn't say we guarantee it; it says we anticipate it, right? And we would like to have an open communication with the community, but there also has got to be an understanding that neither you nor I nor anybody else in this organization, or for that matter in the world, has a crystal ball. That would be wonderful if we did, but we don't. So we try to give guidance as best we can, and we give you the information that we trust to be correct at a given point in time. But whenever it refers to a future event, there is some execution risk, there is some delivery risk, and it has to be like that, unless we reduce our communication to things that we know go live tomorrow, right? And I don't think that would be good for you, and I don't think that's what we want to do. Next question. In the last update from Lars, you mentioned a partnership with Makita. Maybe somebody can concur or correct me. I'm not quite sure. I think possibly you mean Meta Akita, which is a use case that we have announced. So that is correct. That is a very narrow use case, but quite interesting, around the Akita dog breed, trying to through the Web3 ID feature, verify ownership and existence and movement and trading in these particular dogs. So it's a very narrow use case, but an interesting case study for tracking various valuable items. But I assume you mean Meta Akita here, and I can confirm that there is such a use case. Yes. Next one. The reason I invested in Concordium was your partnership with Geely. Was it ever a partnership or only a marketing thing, while Lone was sometimes in the past the CEO of Volvo? Couple of incorrect things. Lone has never been a CEO of Volvo. She is vice chairman of the board. And there is definitely a collaboration with Geely. In fact, we have a joint venture in China together with Geely. We are working with Geely on how do we maximize the effects and the results of that particular joint venture. So absolutely, there's a collaboration going on there. And actually, as recently as this week, I was presented for a proposed business plan for this particular joint venture. So absolutely, there's a partnership. Next question. I see Concordex doing similar as overlay, posting links about what is a DEX, but nothing concrete. Will there be other Launchpad with competent teams? I'm a little bit in doubt about what's meant here. Possibly Possibly you mean ConquerPad, which is a launch pad. That is there, and that's what we have on our radar predominantly on this in this area. So as stated before, the ConquerX, the ConquerPad, and the support for SIS2 tokens and using that standard is actually in place. So I hope that answered the question. I don't know of other launch pads straight off the bat, but seen from our point of view, we certainly got ConquerPad and we have that on our radar to support that. Next question, please. You have all these partners. Do any of them plan to be on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap? I assume the abbreviations therefore. Are you planning to be a private chain like Hyperledger? It doesn't have any projects listed on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. Well, we are certainly not a private chain like Hyperledger. We're a distributed blockchain, as you know, and when people begin to use the SIS2 token standard for their own tokens, then they would be possible listings on various platforms like CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. That is obviously a matter for those projects to decide. But let me underline that, of course, we're not a private chain like Hyperledger. We are a distributed public chain that anybody can use and anybody can participate in the consensus mechanism, etc. Listings again are of course up to CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, but also up to the projects that use SIS2 token standard. Next question, please. With private and public investors being down between 66 and 99% on their initial investments, what are the key reflections of the management team that they will change going forward and that should regain the trust of the initial investors? I think pretty much what I spent the last 1 hour and 33 minutes on is describing what we are trying to do. When I look, as I said, I'm also invested in different funds and crypto funds, etc. And I absolutely don't think we are alone with fluctuations in valuations of the tokens. But as I've been spending the last hour and a half on the strategy, and if you want more, go watch the strategy presentation, because I think that actually is quite detailed in what we are trying to do, and it was generally well received. So if you haven't seen it, please go and spend a little bit of time on that. I think you will enjoy it if you haven't seen it before. So that is what we're doing, right? We are very focused on decentralization of the project. We're very focused on increasing the communities around us. We're very focused on securing more trading and liquidity in the token. We made it very clear to everybody internally that a significant part of the vast majority of people's work is now also supporting people externally, that they have as good an experience and as smooth and painless an experience with doing stuff with Concordium as possible. So in essence, that new strategy, I think, is a reflection of what we have been thinking as a management team and what we'll be doing going forward, and more specifically in the next few months, covered quite detailed in the strategy presentation that you can find on concordium.com/live. Next question, please. Will the team burn the Concordium token? We're continuously looking at tokenomics. There are no current plans for that, no. But we are continuously looking at the tokenomics. As you'll notice, the governance committee reduced the inflation earlier this year, and continuously in the future will reduce inflation according to certain milestones and considerations, and generally looking at tokenomics on an ongoing basis with the help of some very high-level scientists and that know the science behind tokenomics, but also, of course, people with more hands-on commercial considerations around tokenomics. So it's an ongoing process, and we will tell you if there's anything new there. Next question, please. Last question, 1 hour and 36 minutes, and we got there. And now I want to actually disclaim a little there because there might have been posted questions during the session. We decided not to take them because we knew there was already a lot of questions, but we will add that to the next AMA, so they will be answered. But for today, this is the last question. I don't have any questions. I just want to say that with the knowledge of your activities, this project will definitely be successful, like your other works. By the way, promise to invite us to one of our restaurants in Copenhagen, Denmark. Well, that's not really a question. I appreciate it. Looks like I might have written it myself, but thank you very much for that acknowledgement. We might do a little competition to one or both of the restaurants at some point. That could be a fun idea. As you might know, I own two very high-end restaurants in Copenhagen. One of them was the world's best restaurant in 2022, and the other one is current number 5 in the world. So maybe I should be a little generous and make a prize for the community. I'll think about that. But thank you for the kind words. More importantly, thank you all for listening in for a long time. And if you lasted this long, well done. Not a lot of people last that long with listening to me, but thank you for hanging in there. And again, as I always finish up saying, we try to do what we can to make this project visible. We try to share as much news and information, etc., as we can. Sometimes we're a little bit behind, as has been pointed out, and sometimes the website is not updated the same day for various reasons. Could be a considered decision, could be time pressure, but we try to generally keep you as well informed. We also have the ambassador program. We also have the digital assets management platform that should help you in actually helping spreading the word if you wish to do so. So you also, as a community, play a significant role in the success of this project. As usual, please like, please share, please comment, please give us feedback, and please use our communities actively and vibrantly, and we will get to a successful project, and we all play a role in that. So thank you very much for listening in, and I'll be back in about a month's time with another whole bunch of questions, I'm sure. But for now, thank you for hanging in there, and thank you for tuning in the first place.